Hey guys, today we'll cover ASPE 3063 and IAS 36 for impairment. We'll cover three phases. First is what is impairment, what would trigger us to consider an impairment issue, and then second, my three steps on how I would assess impairment in a case analysis, and then third, what are some differences between ASPE and IFRS. So our first phase, what is impairment? Impairment is the reduction or a write down in the value of an asset or goodwill. It's treated like a loss. Impairment, in the simplest description, is when your recoverable amount is less than the carrying amount. So what is fair value? Fair value is the selling price of the asset in an active market or the price in a binding sales agreement. What does recoverable amount mean? There's a slight difference in the meaning between ASPE and IFRS. For ASPE, the recoverable amount is the greater of fair value minus cost to sell, or the sum of undiscounted cash flows from the use and the eventual disposition of the asset. For IFRS, the recoverable amount is the greater of fair value minus cost to sell, or the PV of discounted cash flows from the use and the eventual disposition of the asset. This is also known as the value in use. The key difference is ASPE uses undiscounted cash flows, while IFRS uses discounted cash flows. So what would trigger me to consider an impairment issue? If your case mentions anything about an asset not performing as well as expected, this should trigger you to consider an impairment issue. Generally, there would be either a change in the market or a change in the physical condition of the asset. Other ways they can phrase it would be a significant decline in the market value, significant decline in the market demand, the asset is damaged in some way, or the asset has declining performance. So in our second phase, how I would approach an impairment analysis using three steps. They are: first, I would assess and list my indicators for impairment using the case facts. For example, this asset is not performing as well as expected. And then my second step would be grouping the impaired assets to a CGU. CGU means cash generating unit. This is the smallest identifiable group of assets generating cash flows independent of other cash flows from other assets. So in this second step, we're simply asking, do the group of impaired assets belong in the same CGU? Third step is I want to determine the impairment amount. We'll do this by calculating recoverable amount minus your carrying amount, and then you just want to state the number. So in our third phase, what are some differences between ASPE and IFRS? Under ASPE, you would assess impairment whenever there's events or changes in circumstances that indicate that the recoverable amount is less than the carrying amount. While IFRS, we must assess indicators of impairment at the end of each reporting period. For reversals of impairment, under ASPE, no reversal is permitted, while IFRS permits reversals for impairment. Again, just as a reminder, in assessing recoverable amount, ASPE uses undiscounted cash flows, while IFRS uses discounted cash flows in assessing its recoverable amount.